When I was in college, I had an English major, and for a while I considered going into teaching. I went through the whole student teaching process, and I eventually decided that I didn't want to do that, and I went in another direction instead. But while I was exploring the possibility of becoming a teacher, I did a lot of thinking about the way that the education system in the United States is run, and I disagree with a lot of the ways that things seem to happen and have happened for a long time in our educational system. I can remember when I was in junior high and high school, and even as early as elementary school, the way that students would tend to get boxed in very early on in their education. And it becomes really impossible to break out of the classes that you're more or less tracked into when you're very young. And a lot of the decisions are made for you, really. People don't seem to recognize various kinds of intelligence. They seem to just want to give standardized tests and peg you for what you're capable of very early on in your education. And I think that a lot of people who are very intelligent, that I've known personally and professionally, have not had a lot of the opportunities that they could have had if the school system was more conducive to students learning in a little bit less constrained atmosphere. I've always felt that a lot of the classes that you're forced to take in high school are not really geared towards what you're going to be doing. There's very little emphasis on your own special interests. Everybody is sort of treated like they're the same person. Everything's very generalized. There's a lot of pressure on students to be as well-rounded as possible, when I think being well-rounded isn't really possible, because it becomes impossible to develop any one part of yourself to any great degree. And as a result, people can't get into good colleges if they, haven't, scored the right thing on the math section of the SAT, even if they're brilliant writers, and vice versa. People just really are not given a chance, I think, in a lot of cases. And that was something that always really disturbed me, as far as the way that things are run. And when I was getting involved in teaching, I noticed a lot more that hadn't been apparent to me when I was a student. And that had to do with the ways that students are separated from each other, even. I got involved with vocational education, which means that the kids go out to a technical or a trade school for part of the week, and then they come back to the home school for the other part of the week, and they take their academic classes. However, these kids are kept separate from the rest of the school, almost as if they're below them, and they're very aware of their social position. There's a lot of stratification, and the kids are as aware of it as anyone. At any rate, I feel that the kids are very aware of the way that they're perceived by the educators, by their teachers, and, by their peers. And I think that it causes them to act in a way that is not really optimal, but they feel that they're acting in a way that they are expected to act. And that's pretty sad to me. I actually had kids tell me when I was teaching them, we're just the bad class. It's not that we have a problem with you personally. We're just bad. We're bad kids, because pretty much that was what they felt they were. And, their classes were very limiting. The teachers never tried to do anything creative with those classes because, they were the bad kids. They just did dittos all the time. And I think that many of the kids in that class were intelligent, but never actually realized their potential because of the way they were tracked very early on in their education.